Hi, so I'm going to be teaching you guys how to script on Roblox and helping you make awesome games, and I want to teach you how to script. But before we can even start scripting, you're going to want to download Roblox Studio from the Roblox website if you haven't done so already. You want to open up Roblox Studio and then you want to click on New and then you want to select the base plate. I've already done that. Here's what it should look like. So once you load up the base plate template for your game, you will see you have a base plate which shows up in the workspace, and you will also have a spawn location, which is where your player will spawn when you play the game. So here in the workspace, this is where you're going to put all your parts and models and your meshes and all that stuff so that the players can actually see it and they can play a game, because without anything in the workspace, I don't really think you can have a game. Unless if you plan on making a game with GUIs, but the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to know how to move about in Roblox Studio. So to move your camera, you're going to do WASD to move forwards, backwards and sideways. So just like you're playing a game. You can also use the arrows, but I think it's just better to use WASD. And then to rotate your camera, you're going to want to use your mouse and you're going to want to right click, and then you can just rotate that camera and then just let go, and then, just move around the camera and just try doing that. And then get used to doing that, and then you will see that I'm actually going faster and faster, because that's how the camera is. It goes faster if you keep pressing, and then as soon as you let go, the speed will reset to its normal speed. If you want to go slowly with the camera, for example, you're going to be doing some detailed work, or I don't know, you're going to be doing something around here and you're trying to get up close to your part or whatever it is that you're doing, but you can't because it's going too fast and you can't quite get in there, and it's just too fast. The camera's too fast. So you're going to want to hold shift down and then you can actually move slower, and then you're able to actually get in there and then do whatever you need to do. And then just let go of shift and the camera speed will be back to normal. If you want to go up and down, you can press Q to go down and E to go up. That's just to make your camera go up and down. So have fun moving your camera about and just really get the grip of doing that first of all. And then once you've done that, you want to add a part, I guess. You're going to want to add a part into the workspace. So you can either add a part in the home tab by just clicking on the part, and there's multiple different parts you can play with later on. So just add a part. So here's the part, and it showed up in the workspace because that's where the parts get inserted into. And then you can also add parts by pressing the plus button next to the workspace, and then you can just look up a part, and then you have all these parts to choose from, and you can just click on it and then the part will show up in the workspace. So we're only going to be needing one for right now. So once you've added a part into the workspace, you're going to want to know how to use these tools, and you're going to want to learn the hotkeys. When I say command in like command 1, command 2 for the hotkeys, if you're on Windows, it's control. So whenever I say command, just switch it with control and you should be fine. To toggle between these tools, you do command 1 for select, command 2 to move, command 3 for scaling, and command 4 for rotating. So we're going to move the part, so command 2 to move it. As you can see, this moves with the camera, and it just shows you the axes and where your camera is facing and what you're looking at. So the green arrow is going to move your part in the y-axis. As you can see, it is green. So this is your y-axis. You can move that however you want. And then in the x-axis, it's the red arrow. You can move it like that. And then the z-axis is the blue arrows. You can also just grab the part and just drag it with your left click and just place it wherever you want. As you can see, there are numbers changing over here, and that's because this is the part properties, and it's going to display what the part's position is, what its size is, and its orientation. So as you can see, as I move the part, the position is changing in the Z direction because I'm moving it with the blue arrow, so that is the Z direction. If I move it in the X direction, it's going to change the X position. If I move it into the Y direction, then it's going to change the Y position. So once we've done that, you're going to want to scale it to the desired size that you want for your part. So do Command 3, and then you can just scale it in the Y direction, the X direction, and the Z direction. And again, it's changing in the transform section in the properties. So let's do a part like this, and we're gonna keep it like that. Okay, so this is the size that I want, maybe up here, for my part like that. If you want to change the size from both faces of your part, you just hold Command and then you just drag like normal, and it will change the size accordingly on opposite sides. So you can just do that with the X, and you can do that with the Y. Just hold Command and then it will mirror it on the other side. So that's kind of cool. And yeah, so we're going to leave it like that. And then if you look over here, if you scroll up into the appearance, if you check the car shadow, which is just a shadow, so we're going to remove that, and as you can see the shadow is gone, and now the part isn't creating a shadow, so we're just going to leave the shadow on. And then to change the color of your part, you can do it here, or you can also do it up here to change the material and the color. So if you want to change the material, you have all these materials to choose from. So we're going to go with wood. And as you can see, the wood isn't... I'm not seeing any wood. It's kind of weird. That is kind of weird. I don't know what is happening. Okay, we're back, and I'm just gonna add a part again. I don't know what the issue was. I just waited a little bit, and I guess now it's working. Okay, that's good. Okay, so you can also change the material up in the home tab. So let's go with a brick. And then you can also change the color here. I'm going to do a pink brick, and then I'm going to scale it here just like that, because that is what I want. And then yeah, you can just change the material here, and then when you add a new part, it will take the material and color that you have selected here. So every time you add a part, it will take that material and that color that you have selected. So we don't need all of these. Now when you add a part inside Roblox, it doesn't automatically anchor it, so I suggest that you anchor your parts immediately as soon as you add them in, and you can do that by doing Alt A, or you can just click it here if you prefer. So just do Alt A to anchor it and unanchor it, because otherwise when you play the game the part is going to fall. So look, let me put this in the air and then I will show you. So I'm going to unanchor the part, which is over here. So you can unanchor it and anchor it in the properties as well. So let me show you what happens. As you can see, the part fell because the part was not anchored and Roblox was using physics. So unless if you plan on using physics for your part, I suggest that you anchor it immediately. Otherwise, you can build an awesome house or an awesome model of whatever you want, and then when you play the game, the model is just going to collapse and is going to fall, and that's not really going to be good. So you just want to anchor the part. So you see I've anchored the part now with Alt A. So when I run the game, you will see that the part stays in the air and it's not falling. So if I click on the part, I go down to the properties and I unanchor it, as you can see the part fell. So keep your parts anchored unless you want them to use physics. Now, when you put collisions on over here in the home tab, we're going to do these collisions first. So if you check collisions, for example, if I want to move this part in the x-axis, as you can see, I can't move that part. I can try change its size and it's not going to let me because the spawn location is in the way. So what you can do is, if you like that, you can just keep that and then your parts will never go into one another and you can have things nice and neat. But if you do want your parts to collide with each other, you just check that off and then you can just put the part inside the spawn and the parts will not have collision issues. So you can just switch that on and off with whatever you're doing at that moment in time. If you do can collide in the part properties, that just means whether the player can touch the part or not. This is for the studio when you're editing, this collision one, and then this one is for when you're actually playing the game, whether it can collide with other parts and other players and that. So if I turn can collide off and I test the game, you will see that my player can actually walk through the part. Now, if I change that in the workspace and I make it can collide, as you can see, the player can now collide with the part, and you can just make stairs, you can do ladders, you can do a bunch of stuff. And now I'm going to be showing you how to copy, paste, duplicate, and cut if you need your parts. So if you want to make loads of these parts and you don't want to keep adding and then having to resize them individually, you can either copy and paste them or you can duplicate them with Command D. And as you can see, I got multiple parts and I have a lot of parts that I can just duplicate. You can also just do Command C and then press Command V and then it will paste the part into the workspace. If you want to paste a part inside the base plate, for example, then you just click on the base plate and then you do Command Shift V and that will paste the part inside the base plate. So let me just get rid of all of these. Now if you want to group the parts into a model, you just close that. Then, okay, so let me just get multiple parts. And let's say that I want to group these into a model. I can select two parts by holding down Command and then clicking as many parts as I want. So I don't want these parts, I just want these two parts, and then I'm going to do Command G to group them into a model. So now the parts are inside the model, and now whenever I grab the model, the parts will move together. So whatever's in the model is going to move as one. If you want to select just one part inside the model, you do Alt and then you can just click whichever part you want to use. So I don't need a model. And then let me show you guys what you can do. Oh yeah, if you want to cut, what you can do is cut, it just copies it and then it deletes it. So I've copied the spawn location. Now I'm going to paste it. And there it is. So I'm going to put that back here in the center. And I will duplicate the spawn location. And now I have two spawns. And because both of the spawns are neutral, the players can spawn on either one of these and it will be random. I want to show you guys, so if you go in the models tab, you have the tools here as well, and you have transform, which does rotating, scaling, and moving at the same time if you want to do that. Whoops. Like that. It moves everything, so you can use that if you prefer. I like to use these three personally, but you can just use whatever you feel most comfortable with. Let me show you what the pivot point does. So let me just move this spawn location over here, and if you want to change the pivot point, which is this little white dot here, which is where the part pivots, so when you rotate it, it rotates it at this specific point, so it's automatically in the center. So you can edit the pivot point, and then you can change that pivot point. Let's put it on this side, and then now when you rotate the part, as you can see, it rotates it on the pivot point, which is that white dot right here in the center. If you want to snap the pivot point, you will see that it shows you all the snap parts. So the snap parts are in the center of everything. So in the center of this edge, the center of this edge, the center of this face. That's where the pivot points go. So yeah, you can do that, and you can also just reset it, and then it will just put it back in the middle. So that's what the pivot point does. And then I will now show you what you can do with constraints and attachments. So if you want to create a rope attachment, you click here in the constraints tab over here, and then let's say you want to create a rope. I want to create a rope from this spawn location to that spawn location, and now it's created a rope and it's created attachments inside the spawn location and the other spawn location. And then you can change the thickness and you can mess about with that. But let's not get into too much detail because I don't want you to get confused right off the bat. So let's go back over here and look into the solid modeling area over here in the model tab. So let me just delete that spawn location and add a part, and then duplicate that part with Command D. And then let's say that I want to create a hole inside this part. So what I can do is shrink this part to where I want the hole to be, and then just move it there. And then I can do Command Shift N, and that will negate the part. If you want to unnegate it, you can do Command Shift U, and that will separate the part. But I want to negate it because I want to create a union between this part and that part. You do Command and then you hold these two parts together, and then you do Command Shift G, and that will union it. And as you can see, there is now a hole inside this part. So I want to separate that, so Command Shift U, and I want to make even more holes. So let me just shrink that there, put that there, and then just hold Command while selecting all these parts, and then Command Shift G, and then I have a bunch of holes in this part, and then I can duplicate it for whatever purpose I need. So let's delete these, and let me add a new part. These are effects and the spawn location. So the effects is you can have like explosions where it explodes, and then you can also have fire effect if you put that there in the part. These are just effects, and you can play around with these and see what they look like and just have fun with these. And yeah, just have fun and just try a bunch of stuff, and it doesn't matter if you mess up something, it's okay. So now the spawn. So if you delete the spawn and you're like, oh no, I want to add a spawn but I don't know how to do that. So you can either do that by going in the plus in the workspace and then looking up for a spawn location, and then you can add that in, or you can just go in the model tab and you can just press spawn and a new spawn will appear in the material and color that you have selected. So that's what that does. We're going to go into the test tab. So the test tab is where you can test your game. So you can play. So when you do play, that will spawn your character onto the spawn location. As you can see, I spawned on the spawn location. Now if you're building something here and you want to test something in your game and you don't want to have to walk all the way over here just to test your game, you just go in here and you press play here, and then your character will spawn where your camera is, and as you can see, you can now test your game and do whatever you want over here. And then running, it just runs the scripts and it runs everything. So this is if you want to test your game with multiple players, and then this will create as many windows as you want for you to test your game. The maximum is 8 players. I don't recommend doing that because your computer will probably break, unless if your computer is really good. But yeah, it takes a lot of power for your computer to do it, especially if your game's pretty detailed. So this is just to test your game with multiple players, and you can control all of them. This is just a device emulator, and this is going to be good for GUIs, but we're not going to be getting into GUIs quite just yet. And then this is the view. So this is really important because if you accidentally delete the Explorer, let me just delete the Explorer right now. Okay, delete the properties. I don't know why it's not letting me just delete the Explorer. Hold on. Oh my goodness, what is happening? So let's say I've deleted the Explorer and the properties. So don't panic, you can just go in the View tab here, and then you can just click Explorer and Properties, and then it will show up. You absolutely don't want to remove these because you're going to be using them pretty much all the time to check stuff and to do a bunch of different stuff. So you don't want to delete these, you want to keep them. And then here's going to be the output. That's more for scripting and the breaking points as well. The toolbox is where you can find a bunch of different models and images and meshes and audio, videos and plugins that other players have made, and they're letting you use them and you can use them. So let's say that you want to make a McDonald's game. You can just click on this McDonald's model that somebody has created, and as you can see, I got a warning that this model includes 6 scripts. So I'm just gonna press OK. And then if you want to remove the scripts from a model because you don't know if they have a virus and somebody has put a virus in them because they just felt like doing that, so you can just actually look it up here in the search bar in the Explorer. Just do script, and then the scripts will be highlighted and you can just click all of them. As you can see, it said it had 6 scripts, and here are the 6 scripts, and I can just delete that. And then you can just remove that. Also be careful if you have a bunch of scripts as well, not to delete your own scripts. Just look inside the McDonald's model for the scripts that you don't want, if you don't want them. So this is a nice model that somebody has made, and they're very nicely letting other people use it. And that's very nice of them, I think. So I'm going to delete that because I don't need this model. And yeah, you can just look around. There's images as well for you to use, and then you can also search stuff. So if you're making a gun game and then you want a gun really quickly, you can just do that, look for it, and see it's telling me that there are 5 scripts. I'm not going to put this tool in the starter because I want to show you guys this. So we're going to put that there, and then you can actually see the scripts here, but sometimes they're hidden in a bunch of different parts and models, and it's tricky. So you can just do script, and then the scripts will show up, and you can delete all the scripts that you don't want, like that, and then the scripts are gone. Now I don't need this gun because I'm just showing you guys. So yeah, and then the toolbox as well, you can remove it and add it here. You can also press the cross and you can add it back here. You can just, if you ever like press the cross on one of these and you don't know how to put it back, just go in the view tab and then just put it back and then it will just pop up. Here, this is just for grids. If you want to have a grid like that, I don't need that. If you want to undo and redo stuff, it's Command Z. So let me shrink it and then I'm like, oh no, I actually want it the size that it was before. Just do Command Z. And if you're like, wait, no, actually I prefer the other size, you can do Command Shift Z and it will redo it. So Command Z and Command Shift Z to undo and redo. So here it's just a grid. If you want to use a grid for when you're building, you can just do that in the view tab. So we'll go back to the model tab, and I actually forgot about this. So here you can change how much you move your part by. So let's do 10. So 10 studs. Let me add a part here. As you can see, when I move the part, it's moving it by 10 studs in all the axes. Same with sizing it, it will do it by 10 studs. So for example, if you're wanting to duplicate a bunch of these parts and you want them to be at a specific distance from one another, you can set it to whatever distance you want them to be apart from, and then do Command D, and then you can just move it like that. So I'm doing 30 studs because I'm moving it twice, but you can also just change it here and just Command D and then move them. You can also select a bunch of parts and then Command D, and then you have a bunch of parts. So you can also select parts here, and then if you want to select all these parts, instead of holding Command and having to individually do that, you can just press Shift. So for example, you want to start from here and you want to get all these parts. You press this part, the top part, and then you hold Shift and then you click, and then it will select all the parts in between. And then you can do that, and it's also good if you want to delete it. So that's what you can do. And then let me add the part again. And then rotation is the same thing. Let's move that back down to 1. So let's rotate it by 45 degrees. And as you can see, it will now rotate the part by 45 degrees. I like to keep it on 5. I think that is a nice rotation to have. So that's what that does. I suggest that you practice moving about in Studio and creating parts and models and just having fun with it. And then once you've got a grip of it, you can then move on to more and more complex stuff, but really getting the basics is really important before you start scripting. So I know I didn't teach you any scripting yet, but in the next tutorial I will get into scripting. It's just that it's important that you know the basic foundations inside Roblox Studio. So I suggest that you go practice and yeah, just learn the hotkeys. So Command 1 for select, Command 2 to move, Command 3 for scaling, Command 4 for rotating, and Command 5 for transforming, which is all the same like that. So yeah, that's it for this video. I hoped you liked this little tutorial. If you're not new to Roblox Studio, then maybe this tutorial you didn't really need it, but if you did, that's what it's for. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll do a scripting tutorial in the next video.